Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. Today I am going to be ranking all 44 presidents from worst to best. Wish me luck. Also, I'm only judging these guys based off what they do in office. So no, I'm not going to consider George Washington leading the country throughout the American Revolution, Zachary Taylor leading throughout the Mexican-American War, John Adams being a founding father, John Adams Jr. signing a treaty ending the War of 1812, William Taft's role as the Chief Justice of the United States, Richard Nixon planning the Bay of Pigs with Dwight Eisenhower, Ulysses S Grant leading throughout the Civil War, James Madison writing the Constitution, JFK's legacy, and more. Number 45 is William Harrison. There should be no surprise here. President Harrison was only in office for 1 month-ish and was sick with pneumonia, though he's a very successful general that doesn't count for his presence on this list. Number 44, James Garfield. Again, no surprise here, as he was only in office for roughly 8 months. The only thing he could get done whilst in office was strengthen the authority of the president. Number 42, Herbert Hoover. Wow, where to begin? Well, the beginning of his presidency started off with the Great Depression, a global economic downfall of multiple countries that lasted for almost 3 decades. Signed the Smoot-Hawley tariff, which raised import duties to protect American businesses and farmers, adding considerable strain to the international economic climate of the Great Depression. He also formed the American Federation of Labor's National Committee for Modification of the Volstead Act, which added fuel to the fire for Prohibition in America, recognized the Spanish Republic as a country. There was also the Hoover Moratorium, which was used in hope that the Great Depression would lessen its hold on the country. Well, it didn't. It only made it worse. He also supported armamentation limitations, or gun control, passed the Revenue Act of 1932, which raised taxes by double the rate it was. He also ratified the 20th Amendment, or the Lame Duck Amendment. He passed the Blaine Act, which was the first step in repealing the 18th Amendment, which has proven a failure instantly. By far the worst president who has at least served an entire term. Number 41, Martin Van Buren. Started off his presidencies with the Panic of 1837, which was a financial crisis in the United States that touched off a major depression. It lasted from the mid-1840s. Profits, prices, and wages went down whilst unemployment went up. He began the Cherokee removal that was signed off by President Jackson. He ended the Aroostook War with the Treaty of Webster-Ashburn. He also signed the Independent Treasury Act, which required that all federal funds be deposited in treasuries independent of private banks. It also mandated that all debts be due to the federal government to be paid in gold or silver. Number 40 is Millard Fillmore. He succeeded to the president after Zachary Taylor's death in 1850. Whilst Millard Fillmore was the president, he passed the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, which made it legal for Southerners to go to the North and force blacks to be slaves just because they said they were runaway slaves. There was also the Great Flood of 1851, which Fillmore didn't do anything but give his condolences to the people who lost their lives. He passed the Compromise of 1850, which did halt the Civil War for another decade, but only made tensions worse between the North and the South. He signed the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1851, which gave America more territories from natives. He authorized the 3-cent piece, authorized the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad, which eventually would give the North a lead in the Civil War. Number 39, Zachary Taylor. Zachary Taylor didn't do much as president, but there was the signing of the Clayton-Buller Treaty, which built now with the name that I'm not going to risk saying. It's not really much, but it's better than what the presidents before Taylor did. He also passed away roughly a year and a half into his first term. Number 38, James Buchanan. He authorized the Flying Cent Eagle. There was the Panic of 1857, a financial crisis in the United States caused by a declining international economy and the overexpansion of the domestic economy. Authorized the Indian Head Cent, entered the Paiute War, and quickly gave America another victory. The secession crisis began during his term, which he failed to stop, which led to a civil war. Number 37, John Adams. Starting with high expectations until the XYZ affair occurred, leading us to the Quasi-War, which was inconclusive. He established the U.S. Marine Corps, signed the Alien Sedition Acts, which limited our freedom of speech, proving this by having multiple congressmen arrested for speaking out against him. He raised taxes while we were in the Quasi-War, which led to the Fries Rebellion. As a second president, there's no wonder why he lost against Jefferson. Number 30, 6. Woodrow Wilson. This guy is just awful. Go watch Alternate History Hub's video about President Wilson to get a better understanding of this guy. His presidency started off good, ratifying the 17th Amendment, the direct election of senators, re-established the federal income tax with the Revenue Act of 1913. He denied to give women the right to vote at first. He interfered in the Mexican Revolution, helped foster and fund the second KKK. Bet you didn't know that one. He entered World War I after pleading to the American people he was not going to enter the war under any circumstances. He enacted the Espionage Act, which limited freedom of speech, again. This caused Eugene Debs to get arrested for almost an entire decade. He went on to ratify the 18th Amendment, which made alcohol illegal, or made prohibition legal. He finally caved in and gave women the right to vote with the 19th Amendment. This guy was just an awful president. Number 35, John Adams II. He didn't win the popular vote nor the Electoral College when he was chosen by the House in a shady way, securing a deal with the current House Speaker Henry Clay, who was promised to be his Secretary of State if he got Adams elected. He also signed the Tariff of 1828, which dropped the economy when it raised taxed goods from Europe. Like his father, he lost re-election. Number 34, Chester Arthur. President Arthur succeeded to the presidency after the assassination of President Garfield. He passed the Edmunds Act that made polygamy illegal. He authorized the use of steel vessels in the United States Navy. There was a depression during his presidency, and he increased funding for the Navy. So, very middle-of-the-road presidency for this guy. Number 33, William Taft. To start off, he broke up more monopolies than President Roosevelt did. He also ratified the 16th Amendment, which is the reason why we have income tax. Thanks, Taft. Number 32, Benjamin Harrison. Starting off with President Harrison II, he didn't win the popular vote, which is always fun. He passed the Sherman Antitrust Act, which started the government breaking up monopolies one by one. He also declared Abraham Lincoln as a national holiday. That's nice. Number 31 is Warren Harding. President Harding is cited as either the most or the second most corrupt president in history. He passed the Emergency Quota Act, which was the first immigration limitation set by a president. He signed a joint resolution with the nations of the Central Powers ending the war with them. So he has that going for him. Number 31, George Bush II. As with many Republicans, George Bush II didn't win the popular vote. Again, that sounds really fun. There was the controversial Bush v. Gore Supreme Court case. There was a small recession in the beginning of his term, which he quickly fixed with the Bush tax cuts. There was also 9/11, which led us on a never-ending war on terrorism. He passed the Patriot Act, which allowed the government to spy on you, essentially ending our freedom of privacy. He did help create the Department of Homeland Security. He entered both the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, the U.S. housing bubble bursted during his administration, and as well as the Great Depression. Number 29, Richard Nixon. President Nixon started off his 6 years in office strong. He was very popular, withdrawing troops from Vietnam. However, there was the Nixon Doctrine and the beginning of the Vietnam Draft. He signed into the Public Health Cigarette Smoking Act, which banned public advertisements on tobacco. He passed the 26th Amendment, which allowed citizens 18 years older the right to vote. He ended a recession, established the EPA, signed the OSHA Act, signed Title IX, which allowed women to play in male sports. He realized the draft was stupid, so he ended it. He increased Social Security spending. He would go on to lose the Vietnam War, and to top it all off, he resigned over the Watergate scandal. Number 28, Bill Clinton. First, there was NAFTA, which could be argued was a failure. He signed the Federal Assault Weapons Ban, the Violence Against Women Act, the Child Protection and Obscenity Enforcement Act, which made child pornography illegal finally. There was the Whitewater and Lewinsky scandals, which got him impeached in the House for perjury and obstruction of Congress, but he was acquitted by the Senate 17 and 22 votes, respectively. Number 27, Rutherford Hayes. Again, did not win the popular vote. There was also a yellow fever pandemic, but he did pass a bill that allowed female lawyers to plead their case in front of the Supreme Court, as well as ending the Long Depression. All in all, a president that should be talked about more, but isn't. Number 26, Andrew Johnson. Succeeded to the presidency after the assassination of President Lincoln. He went straight to work, ratifying the 13th Amendment, ending slavery in America. Yes, that was him, not Lincoln or Grant. He began the reconstruction process of the South. He oversaw the purchase of Alaska from Russia. There's a yellow fever outbreak. He was impeached in the House for violating the Tenure of Office Act. Of course, he was acquitted by the Senate, just by one vote, though. He passed the 14th Amendment, which gave blacks basic American rights. He also pardoned Civil War rebels. All in all, he was not a president all drenched in corruption, but still a pretty bad president nonetheless. Number 25, Franklin Pierce. His presidency started off with a yellow fever outbreak. Seems like yellow fever was an on and off again problem here. There was the Costa affair, the Black Warrior affair. He passed the unpopular Kansas-Nebraska Act. However, he did repeal the Missouri Compromise. He created the Camel Corps, which disbanded in just 10 years after it was established. He entered the First Sioux War, the Third Seminole War, and the Yakima War. Number 24, Jimmy Carter. The oldest living president, 96 years old, he wasn't all that good, wasn't all that bad either. He pardoned Vietnam, drafted Dodgers, created the Department of Energy and Education. So good so far until multiple government shutdowns. The Iran hostage crisis led to the president declaring a national emergency, helped negotiate a treaty between Egypt and Israel, which got him nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. There was the energy crisis, the oil crisis, and a bad recession. However, he did get the hostages back before he left office. Yes, that was President Carter, not Reagan. Number 23, George Bush. Doing better than his son, he banned the importation of assault weapons, which did not make him any friends, put his smoking ban on U.S. airplanes. There was the Lebanon hostage crisis. He raised taxes after promising not to. There was the Rhode Island banking crisis. He entered the Gulf War. There was a recession that he quickly ended. He also ended the Cold War. Again, it wasn't Reagan, it was President Bush the First. Number 22, Gerald Ford. The president with the second best name. He pardoned President Nixon, which turned out to be very unpopular. He also pardoned Robert E. Lee and Tokyo Rose for some reason. He did pass the Federal Campaign Reform Bill and the Federal Election Campaign Act, so there is something to give to him. Number 21 is Ulysses Grant. He passed the 15th Amendment, giving blacks the right to vote, declared Christmas a federal holiday. He established the Department of Justice, completed the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad. However, the Long Depression started during his presidency. Number 20, James Madison. He enacted a 90-day embargo on the UK, which caused the War of 1812, a war Madison wanted to get in, but did not prepare his military for. This caused the White House to burn. However, he did go on to win this war for America. Number 20, Grover Cleveland. The president with the best name. He ended the Depression of 82-85, declared the Chinese as impossible of assimilation with our people and dangerous to our peace and welfare. The only president to serve non-back-to-back terms. During his second term in office, there was the Panic of 1893, and he also established the United States Copyright Library. So, thank him for all the copyright rules on YouTube. Number 18, Calvin Coolidge. Succeeded to the presidency after the death of President Harding. He signed the Indian Citizenship Act, which did give Native Americans full citizenship. So, we can thank him for that. Number 17, President William McKinley. President McKinley declared war with Spain over Cuba, a war he easily won, obtained Guam as a territory. He entered the Philippine-American War, placed Alaska under military rule, made Hawaii a U.S. territory. There was also a typhoid fever outbreak. He passed the Platt Amendment and made Cuba a U.S. protectorate. Number 16, John Tyler. Succeeded to the presidency after the death of President Harrison I, he vetoed a bill re-establishing the Second Bank of the United States, which did not make him any friends with the Whig Party, his own party. He ended the Second Seminole War. He signed the Postal Reform Act as well as authorized the annexation of Texas. Yes, that was President Tyler, not Polk. Number 16, James Monroe. He entered the First Seminole War and quickly won it. There was the beginning of the era of good feelings. Though it ended when the Panic of 1819 happened. He passed the ever-so-unpopular Missouri Compromise, and there was, again, a yellow fever outbreak, as well as the Monroe Doctrine. Number 15, John Kennedy. He established the U.S. Peace Corps, which is still a thing today. He established the 23rd Amendment, which gave D.C. representation in the Electoral College. He failed the Bay of Pigs invasion that was planned by Presidents Eisenhower and Nixon. He pushed to get a man on the moon. He put an embargo on Cuba that is still there to this day, which led to the Cuban Missile Crisis. He entered the Vietnam War and established the United States zip codes. Number 13, Dwight Eisenhower. He ended the Korean War, authorized the U.S. Air Force Academy. He added the phrase, "under God," to the United States pledge. There was the Eisenhower Doctrine, as well as the recession of 1854. He gave Alaska statehood. There was the Cuban Revolution, and as previously mentioned, planned the Bay of Pigs invasion. Number 12 is Lyndon B Johnson. He passed the 24th Amendment banning the poll tax, passed 2 different Civil Rights Acts, as well as the Voting Rights Acts for blacks. There was the Northeast Blackout of 1965. He also created the Department of Transportation. He would go on to pass the 25th Amendment, which established the presidential succession. And he also had a secret meeting with the wise men for all you conspiracy theorists out there. Number 11 is Harry Truman. He was the only president to use atomic bombs. He helped win World War II, however he would then quickly enter the Cold War with Russia. He got the U.S. within the United Nations, gave Philippines independence from the United States. There was the Truman Doctrine, there was the Second Red Scare, he created NATO, he withdrew troops from South Korea before having to send them back as he entered the Korean War. He passed the 22nd Amendment, which limited the president to 2 terms, though he would go on record stating that he wished he could repeal it. Number 10, Franklin Roosevelt. He declared the Great Depression a national emergency. There was the New Deal program. He passed the 21st Amendment, which ended probation. Thank God. He signed the Social Security Act, which began giving people Social Security benefits. He entered World War II, which got America out of the Great Depression. He also put the Japanese Americans in internment camps. I mean, hey, the Nazis put Jews in concentration camps, so I don't see what's the big deal about it. That was sarcasm. Number 9, Barack Obama. Big shocker, huh? He ended the Great Recession, started a process where the economy was always going to be micromanaged. He passed the unpopular Obamacare Act, which didn't give people a public option who didn't enjoy the government health care. He withdrew troops from Iraq, repealed the controversial Don't Ask, Don't Tell. There was the death of Osama bin Laden, the Flint water crisis, and he also withdrew troops from Afghanistan. So Obama was not that bad of a president. He's even in the top 10 in my opinion. Number 8, James Polk. He enforced the Monroe Doctrine, which advanced manifest destiny. He entered and won the Mexican-American War and established the Department of Interior. Number 7, Andrew Jackson. Funny how the 7th president is number 7 on the list. He entered and won the Black Hawk War, vetoed a bill that would charter the Second Bank of America. There was a cholera pandemic, the nullification crisis, where he would sign the force bill to fix the crisis in South Carolina. He established the Office of Indian Affairs. He paid off the entirety of the national debt, the only president to do so. He signed the Indian Removal Act. You know, the thing everyone is taught in elementary school. Number 6, Donald Trump. Another shocker, right? In the 3 years Donald Trump has been president, he has done a lot for the citizens of America, including lowering the unemployment rate to record lows for both the Hispanic and Black communities. Got out of the controversial Trans-Pacific Partnership that not even Democrats liked. He began the construction of the U.S.-Mexico border wall, withdrew from the Paris Agreement, passed a 6-month Muslim travel ban, put tariffs on trade with China. There was the Persian Gulf crisis. He signed the U.S.-Mexican-Canada Agreement. There was the COVID-19 pandemic. He was impeached for abuse of power and obstruction of Congress by the House, but he was acquitted by the Senate by 19 votes. There were multiple race riots, and the amazing peace deal between the AU, Israel, and Bahrain. Of course, the president did contract with the COVID-19, and I do send out my prayers to him and all of his family and everyone under his administration that he gets better soon. Number 5, Ronald Reagan. His presidency started off with a recession that we quickly got out of with multiple tax cuts. There was the Iran-Contra scandal. He outlawed genocide. He began the war on drugs, signed the U.S.-Canada Free Trade Agreement, he increased defense spending, reduced the national debt, and ratted out corrupt members of his cabinet for illegally selling arms to Iran. What a guy! Number 4, Thomas Jefferson. He entered and won the first Barbary War. There was the Louisiana Purchase. He began the Lewis and Clark expedition, passed the ever-needed 12th Amendment, which allowed electors to cast one vote for both the president and the vice president, and signed the unpopular Embargo Act. Number 3, George Washington. The first president raised the taxes, but this was needed as the government was broke, which would have not bode well for the states. He created the Departments of State, Treasury, and Defense, passed the first Fugitive Slave Act, not good. He begged a militia to stop the Whiskey Rebellion due to the taxes he raised, and passed the 11th Amendment, which made states not eligible to be heard in certain court cases. Number 2 is Theodore Roosevelt. He loved establishing national parks, as you can see by this list here. But he did succeed at the presidency after the assassinations of William McKinley. He won the Philippine-American War and passed the Meat Inspection Act as well as the Pure Food and Drug Act. Number 1, Abraham Lincoln. And finally, the greatest president to date was President Abraham Lincoln. Starting off his presidency, entering the Civil War, he ended the Fugitive Slave Acts, established the Department of Agriculture. However, he did suggest that blacks migrate to Africa, citing that he believed that they would never be accepted in America. He also issued the Emancipation Proclamation, and there was a smallpox pandemic, but his biggest accomplishment was winning the Civil War for the North and keeping our country united. I know I didn't explain every little detail for each president due to it, taking so long. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is the Chaotic One saying peace.